Who else could it be but me, your man, Louis T. Welcome to this Louis T Network exclusive. I want to talk about the AFC and NFC playoff pictures. I want to start with an AFC playoff picture video first. And I want to talk about this entire outlook on this postseason going into Week 16. When you look at the AFC, both conferences, really the entire NFL has been extremely intriguing this year. I talked about it on my podcast, Louis T Network podcast. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, please do yourself a favor and check out the Louis T Network podcast. Available on Stitcher, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, wherever you can get a podcast, LouisTNetwork.net. It's also available there as well. But talked about how this has been a fascinating season. And I feel like the NFL has over-delivered in 2019. We've had some excellent football games on primetime television. We've had some really good football teams. We had some really bad teams, but there are a lot of good teams in the league this season, some really good records, and it's really shaping up to be a hell of a playoff and postseason. And it's coming down the wire, and you're looking at both conferences, and we start with the AFC, and you've got one team that's dominant at the top, but they're not away from the rest of the pack to the point where you feel like it's a no-doubter or no-brainer that they're going to be in the Super Bowl representing the AFC. You feel like they're the clear-cut favorite, but I feel like they can be beaten. And we've seen teams test them this season, most notably and most recently the Buffalo Bills on the road testing the Baltimore Ravens. So you look at the AFC playoff picture, and I want to take a look at it right now. And you look at what this playoff picture looks like. Right now, the Baltimore Ravens pretty much have the number one seed locked up. I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point. All they have to do is win one of their final two matchups. At Cleveland seems to be the one that's the easiest to grab in Week 16. They take care of business there. They won't even need Week 17, and guys like Lamar Jackson and others can get a rest. And, you know, they're going to get that first round bye. They've already secured that essentially. But the number one seed is locked up if they just win one of their final two games. And I think they're going to take care of business versus a Cleveland Browns team, which was ironically the last team to beat them this season. They're on currently a 10-game winning streak, are the Baltimore Ravens. And the last time they lost was back at home in Baltimore versus those same Cleveland Browns. Browns not playing that good of football right now. And so I think it's very conceivable to think that they're going to get the win there, go to 13-2, secure the number one overall seed in the AFC playoffs, and probably will rest some starters in week number 17 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. You look at the 2 seed, this is where things get interesting in the AFC playoffs, because the New England Patriots for years have been the real done data of the AFC, if you will. They've been the cream of the crop. They've been the team that everyone's been chasing. That is not the case this season. You feel like they've been struggling, but you look up and they're still 11-3. They're still the New England Patriots that you have to respect and fear. And even though the offense has been anemic this season, the defense has been the polar opposite. It's been dominant at times, carrying this football team, along with a sprinkle of special teams. That being said, here's a team still as the 2 seed. And if they're able to win out, they'll remain the 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. Home for Buffalo on Saturday, which is going to be compelling football because the division is not locked up, which is something we're not accustomed to in the AFC East with this Patriots football team over the B&B winning factory's illustrious history now, 17 straight seasons of double-digit wins for the New England Patriots, which is just unheard of in the National Football League. But that's what they've been doing with the B&B winning factory over the last 2 decades. And generally throughout that entire span, they've had this division locked up by week 14 or so most years. Not the case this year. Buffalo is hot on their trail at 10-4. Those two will lock horns on Saturday afternoon. There's a triple header this Saturday. Looking forward to that. 3 awesome games with playoff implications in every single one of them. So you don't want to miss this Saturday action, starting off with the Texans at Buccaneers at 1 p.m., followed by this game here, Patriots hosting the Buffalo Bills. The second game of the two matchups from these two teams. The first one in Buffalo earlier this season, a narrow escape for the New England Patriots with a 16-10 victory over the Buffalo Bills, a game in which Josh Allen sustained a concussion and did not finish. I believe if he would have finished that game, despite his struggles, he did throw 3 interceptions in that game, they would have found a way to win. He's been Mr. Fourth Quarter this season, and so that's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination, but it is in Foxborough. We'll see if the Patriots can hold serve, protect the house, get the win, and all but lock up the AFC East with a win there. But either way, if they don't win that football game, all they have to do is win the following week versus the Miami Dolphins at home. And that's all but impossible for them to lose there. And so if they don't take care of business on Saturday, all it does is leave the door slightly ajar. It'll leave the door slightly ajar. However, they can shut it and slam it shut the following week with a win versus Miami. And so most likely the New England Patriots are going to win the AFC East division. Now, where it gets interesting is if they lose one of those final 2 games, and you would think that the game that they would have to lose if they're going to lose one of their remaining 2 would be against Buffalo, then that would leave the door open for the Kansas City Chiefs, the number 3 seed, which we move to next. The number 3 seeded Chiefs are sitting at 10-4 right now, a game behind the New England Patriots. But remember, just 2 weeks ago, those same Chiefs went into Foxborough, beat the Patriots. So in effect, they have an opportunity to get a first round bye and wrestle away the number 2 seed away from the New England Patriots. And to take it a step further, if you wanted to get froggy, if they were to win out, the Chiefs get to 12-4 and the Ravens lose out, then the Chiefs, because of a win earlier in the season versus the Baltimore Ravens, the Chiefs would then have an opportunity to get the number 1 seed. Highly unlikely, as this Baltimore Ravens team will not lose out. I can assure you of that. They're going to win one of their final 2 games. And so highly unlikely that the Chiefs get to 1, but it is still on the table right now. Ravens can shut that door with a win in Week 16. But the Chiefs still have their sights set on the AFC number 2 seed. They've already locked up the AFC West division, and so they don't have to worry about that. They're going to be a top 4 seed for sure with a home playoff game. Now the question is, where do they find themselves seated? Is it the 3 seed? Is it the 4 seed? Is it the 2 seed? Could it be the 1 seed? Probably not. The 2 seed, though, is definitely within reach, and all they need is to win out at Chicago on Sunday Night Football. Not going to be easy, but the Bears have been eliminated from postseason contention with their loss versus the Packers this past week. So, in effect, you're looking at a situation where the Kansas City Chiefs will have to go into Chicago. Not going to be easy. Cold temperatures, but they should be used to that. They just played a game in the snow on Sunday in a win over the Denver Broncos. So those frigid temperatures should not dissuade this Chiefs football team in any way, shape, or form. But not going to be an easy spot to go into Soldier Field, Sunday Night Football, in those temperatures, in that environment. Should be interesting to see how they handle the elements. And then Week 17, your home against the Chargers. Again, another winnable football game there. So we'll see if the Chiefs can get it done with that setup. I think they're going to be able to win out. The question is, can they get a loss from the Patriots to move into that first round bye? I do not see a scenario in which they get to that first round bye, but Buffalo is game, very dangerous. Don't know if they're going to be able to go into Foxborough and win or not. You look at the 4 seed in the Houston Texans right now, massive win in week number 15 over the Tennessee Titans on the road in Tennessee. It's pretty much put them in the driver's seat now at 9-5 to claim the AFC South division. They're at Tampa on Saturday, as I talked about that triple header on Saturday to kick off week 16. They're the first of 3 games on that Saturday window, and they'll be on the road at Tampa. Not easy by any stretch of the imagination. The Buccaneers are red hot right now, winners of 3 straight, 4 out of their last 5. And right now, when you're talking Tampa Bay Buccaneers, They're so banged up, though. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. They're going to be a shell of themselves going into that football game. But we just saw this Texans team 2 weeks ago get obliterated at home by the Denver Broncos. So anything is possible. Nothing is out of bounds with this Texans team. You really don't know which Texans team is going to show up from week to week. This is the same Texans team that destroyed the New England Patriots just a month ago on Sunday Night Football. So this is a team very capable. Right now they sit at 9-5, and as I just mentioned, they're in the driver's seat. A win versus Tampa locks up the AFC South division, and so they're sitting in a very advantageous position, are the Houston Texans, and they deserve to win this division. When you look at what Tennessee has done in their body of work inside the division, they shouldn't be allowed to win the division as the Titans sit at 2-3 inside the division. You can't do work in the division. You're not allowed to win the division. You know the rules to the game. You got to play, and it's in the rule book. If you don't at least go 500 in your division, you can't even make the postseason, let alone win your division. The Titans sit at 2-3 in their division. The Texans, meanwhile, are 4-1 in the division. They should win that division. They're going to win that division, and a win at Tampa on Saturday will lock up the AFC South division for the Houston Texans. And that Week 17 matchup versus the Titans could loom large at home, by the way, could loom large if they don't take care of business versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Titans do take care of business versus the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But right now, the 4 seed belongs to the Houston Texans at 9-5, and they look to lock it up with a win on Saturday versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 5th-seeded Buffalo Bills have already locked up a postseason spot by virtue of their road victory at Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. Very impressive. They've had an impressive stretch of late, winners of 2 out of their last 3. And the loss that was sandwiched in between there, a loss at home to the red-hot Baltimore Ravens. No shame in losing that football game, and it was only a 7-point loss, a game that they were in to the very end. So this is a Bills team right now playing with an abundance of confidence. They're 10-4. They've been flying under the radar the entire season. They've got a chance to make a massive statement on Saturday. The second of those 3 triple header games on Saturday are these Bills on the road at Foxborough, looking to keep their AFC East the championship hopes alive with a win on Saturday. Right now, though, this is a team playing, as I just mentioned, with a ton of confidence. The defense is starting to fly around. Early in the season, had issues stopping the run. They've since cleaned some of that up. I still think they're vulnerable and susceptible to the run game, but they've cleaned that up from where they came. And now all of a sudden, they are one of these teams that if you allow them to hang around come fourth quarter, they're a dangerous team and a tough out, because Josh Allen just seems to do whatever it takes for his team to win ball games. You're seeing some of the other guys step up, like John Brown and Cole Beasley and McKenzie and some of these other guys making plays. But I think the backfield is what's been so impressive. That and the tight ends. Love Dawson Knox. You saw Tyler Kroft with the game-winning touchdown versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Devin Singletary, to me, is the X factor on the offensive side of the football for this Buffalo Bills team. He's got to hold on to the football. His fumbles almost cost them in that Steelers game. But when he has the football in his hands and isn't fumbling it, he's one of the most dynamic running backs in the league and has a chance to really make a statement on the road versus the New England Patriots on Saturday. This is a really fun matchup to take a look at as the Buffalo Bills. What we got going on here, guys? All right. I think we're good now. As the Buffalo Bills are on the road at New England. They finish up the season at home versus the Jets. And so this is a Bills team that if they win out, they've got a shot to get as high as the number 2 seed. They cannot get to the number 1 seed, because even if they win out and the Ravens lose out, the Ravens would win the tiebreaker by virtue of that win I just talked about a couple of weeks ago up in Orchard Park. However, with now they need a lot of help to get to the 2 seed, do the Buffalo Bills. They would not only need the New England Patriots to lose out, but they would need the Kansas City Chiefs to also lose out as well. So they need a lot of help to get to the 2 seed. It's not out of the realm of possibility, however, but highly unlikely. But they can win the AFC East and become a division champ, get a top 4 seed, get a home playoff game. That's within reach as well. But again, they're going to need the New England Patriots to not only lose in week 16 to these same Bills, they're not only going to have to beat New England, they're going to have to hope that the So you look at the 6th seed now in the AFC playoffs, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't even know how they're here at 8-6, to be honest with you, with the way that their season has gone. Started out the season rough at 0-3, dug themselves out of the hole. They have had unsteady, uneven quarterback play the entire season. First with the injury to Ben Roethlisberger, then Mason Rudolph coming in. Seemed like he was going to stabilize things. He gets a concussion. He comes back. He was never really good the entire season, to be honest with you. But even still, they put in Devlin Duck Hodges. He gave them a spark initially, but he was horrible on Sunday Night Football, threw 4 interceptions. And so they weren't able to beat the Buffalo Bills. But they sit at 8-6 with 2 road games remaining on the schedule, really needing only to win 1 out of their remaining 2 games to secure a postseason berth. Now, again, they need to win both of them, because if the Titans win both of their final 2 games, the Titans could snag that away from them if they only win 1 of their remaining 2 games. But the assumption is the Titans are going to probably lose to the New Orleans Saints at home in Week 16. You don't like to make assumptions, especially with that Titans team. They're very dangerous, and this is the kind of game that they usually jump up and win. I've always said that the Titans play up to their level of competition, so it would not shock me if the Tennessee Titans beat the New Orleans Saints at home in Week 16 to give themselves a realistic shot at sneaking in the back door of the postseason come Week 17. But for the Steelers, it's simple. Win and you're in. Don't look for help from anyone else. You've done enough work to put yourself in a position that all you have to do is win. You don't have to scoreboard watch. You don't have to worry about what anybody else is doing. All you have to do is take care of business. At the Jets in Week 16, very winnable football game. At the Baltimore Ravens Week 17, normally you'd say, man, that's a tough one on the road, but the Ravens are in a position that if they take care of business in Week 16 at Cleveland, they will not need that Week 17 contest. And you have to wonder, will the Ravens rest some starters, or will they look to try to knock their divisional rival out of the postseason? We'll see what happens. But again, all of that hinges upon what Tennessee does. If Tennessee doesn't take care of business in Week 16 versus New Orleans at home, then, and the Steelers conversely take care of business on the road versus the Jets in Week 16, then they would have pretty much already have locked up that 6th and final seed in the AFC playoffs, because they will have a better, they will have the same conference record as the Titans, no matter what the Titans do. Whether they win or lose, they'll have a better one if they lose. They'll have the same one if they win, and that will net the Pittsburgh Steelers a playoff berth. So right now, they are in an advantageous situation, are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just winning will do the trick for them, and they'll be able to box out the Tennessee Titans as the 6th and final playoff participant in the AFC. Speaking of the Titans, you see them at the very bottom of the screen. They're still in the hunt as an 8-6 team right now. That was a tough loss at home. Had a chance to take sole possession of first place in the division. Had everything they wanted in front of them. Lost to the Houston Texans last week. So they're now a game back in the division. So they're not out of the divisional race yet, but they need some help. They need Tampa Bay to take care of the Houston Texans, because if the Texans get the win in Week 16, that will put them at 10-5, and that will put the Houston Texans pretty much in the driver's seat to win the division. Well, it won't put them in the driver's seat. They will have won the division because, again, they will own the tiebreak over the Tennessee Titans by virtue of a much better divisional record, no matter what happens in Week 17. So if the Titans are to get back in the divisional race, they need some help. They've got to take care of business themselves, but they'll already know what they're up against by the time kickoff on Sunday at 1 p.m. because they'll know what happened on Saturday with the Texans. If the Titans are to win the division, they'll need a Texans loss coupled with a Titans win on Sunday to give them a shot in Week 17 on the road at Houston. So that's their way to win the division. They'll need to win out and have the Texans lose really both of their final 2 games. Meanwhile, if you're the Titans, and you're looking to get in through the wild card route, that's going to be doable with a win, 2 wins, and a Steelers loss, or 1 win and 2 Steelers loss. Either way, you get in. But if you finish tied with the Steelers at the end of the season, and the 1 win that you get, if you're going to win 1 game, it needs to be at Houston in Week 17 because of the conference record. Right now, this Titans team sits at 6-5 in the conference. Meanwhile, the Steelers sit at 6-4. So again, if the Steelers win 1 of their remaining 2 games, they'll give them a 7th win in the conference. Meanwhile, the Titans need to win against Houston to give them their 7th win. So again, you need Pittsburgh to lose essentially both of their remaining 2 games, because any win by the Steelers, which both of their final 2 contests are against AFC opponents, will give them a 7th win in the conference. Meanwhile, you look at the Texans, and they're at 6-5 right now. So a win versus Houston gives them a 7th win. But if they were to beat New Orleans but lose to Houston and end up in a 9-7 tie with the Steelers would have more conference wins than the Titans. So again, if you're the Tennessee Titans, you need to get to 7 conference wins by beating the Texans in Week 17. And really, you need to beat New Orleans to give yourself a chance, because I strongly believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to beat the Jets in Week 16 to get them to 9-6. So in order to really have a realistic shot, you want to beat the New Orleans Saints to get to 9-6 and keep pace with them. In case they slip up in Week 17, you beat Houston, you get in by having just a better record. But even if you finish at 9-7 and that last win comes against the Houston Texans and they finish 9-7, then you get into another tiebreak situation, because both teams would have finished at 7-5 in the conference. Now you go to common opponents. And so then you get into a whole different animal, and then you'll see where you end up there. So again, if you're the Houston Texans, just win. That's all you can do at this point, is just win and let the chips fall where they may. But they've put themselves in a position with that loss last week at home to Houston. They've put themselves in a position where now they need help and really a miracle to get in. And I honestly don't see them getting in. And as I mentioned before, at 2-3 in their division, they probably don't belong in the postseason. Although I will say this, that 2-3 mark in the division, some of those losses came earlier in the season when Ryan Tannehill was not at quarterback. So that does leave a little bit left to be desired in terms of that divisional mark. But in any event, it's going to be tough for the Tennessee Titans to get in. As you can see, what the matchups would be if the playoffs started today, you'd have the Chiefs hosting the Steelers, 3 seed over the 6 seed. And you'd have the Texans, the 4 seed, hosting the Buffalo Bills, the 5th seeded team in the AFC playoffs. But all of this is subject to change. As I said, the Bills can get as high as the 2 seed. The Patriots could fall back and not win the division. Highly unlikely. All they have to do is win one of their remaining 2 games. Meanwhile, the Chiefs could get as high as the number 1 seed, but they'll need a lot of help, including a full collapse by the Ravens with 2 final losses. Not going to happen. Probably more likely than not, they'll finish as the 3 seed, but they could get their hands on that first round bye as the 2 seed with a Patriots loss and 2 victories to finish up the season. So look out for the Chiefs trying to make a move into one of the top 2 slots to get a first round bye, and look out for the Patriots trying to hold off both the Bills and the Chiefs, one in the division, one in the overall AFC playoff standings. So and the Texans, I think they're going to lock up the number 4 seed in Week 16 at Tampa. If Tampa were at full strength with all their receiving options, that could be a game that the Texans could definitely lose. But with all of the guys out, even if they had one of those guys, whether Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, if they just had one of those guys for Jameis Winston to get the football to, the Texans could be in a lot of trouble. But being that both of those guys are going to probably be out, Godwin looks like he's done for the year as well, just like Mike Evans. I think the Texans should be able to go into Raymond James and get a win. So that's your playoff picture in the AFC. It's really intriguing right now to see where these teams are. Interested to see how things shape up. We'll know a lot more after week 16. I think we'll start to get a clearer view of what's going on. I think the Ravens would have locked up the number 1 overall seed by then, which will then kind of pave the way for the Steelers to at least get the week 17 win. I think the Steelers will take care of business versus the Jets in week 16, which will set them up in a really good position to lock up that 6th and final wild card berth in the AFC playoffs. Meanwhile, the Texans, if they take care of business, they will lock up the AFC South division and be one of your top 4 seeds. The Chiefs are looking to make a move. What will the Patriots do? Will they beat the Bills? Because that's the only game they have left on the schedule that they can lose. They're not going to lose to the Miami Dolphins in week 17. So they're going to win the division, but can they fall out of the top 2 seeds and have to play in wild card weekend for the first time in a long time? We'll see what happens. Chiefs have to take care of business themselves on the road at Chicago on a Sunday night. It will not be easy. That is your AFC playoff picture right now. Should be a lot of fun to see how it all unfolds. Week 16 will tell a huge part of the story. It will not tell the entire story, but we will know a lot more about the AFC playoff picture after week 16 has met its conclusion. Stay tuned for the NFC playoff picture that's coming at you here shortly. I'm your man, Louis T, signing off. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Louis T Network for more great content, and I'll see you guys in a little bit with the NFC playoff picture coming at you here shortly. See you in a bit.